hopefully John will join us. I was just checking my email. I don't have anything from him.
Yeah, and I did put, if anybody needs the agenda or any of the attachments that Kristen sent out earlier, there's a link in the chat.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, right as we're about to start, my cookies just beeped at me, so.
Oh, did you bring
your
some
cookies?
I know, yeah, if only you could join me right now.
Why can't I come?
We want to watch you slowly eat one.
Right.
Okay, Mark, do you want to make us go live?
You're already
Great.
You're already live. You're good to go.
The whole city of Sherwood knows about your cookies.
Oh, nice. I'm just having a line at my door here pretty soon. Cool. All right. Well, let's get started then. Yeah, cookies are taken care of, so I am fully focused with us now. So I'll go ahead and do roll call. So let's see here. Actually, let me open the PDF back up. So I'm here. John is not in yet. We'll see if he joins us later on. Brian? And then, well, we see him in the group, right? Or I saw him in the group, but
That's just here.
Did he get kicked off?
Hold on,
I only see 4 names in my bottom, so I don't know that my screen shows everybody.
He went away. He'll come back. I saw him putting on his headphones and everything. Oh, there he is.
There he is. He's back.
Okay. All right, Brian, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Brian? It's like he might still be. Well, Sarah, how about you? We'll get you to.
I am here.
Excellent. And then Joy?
I'm here.
Excellent. And then you said Steve isn't going to be able to make it tonight?
Correct.
Okay. And then Brian, are you able to hear us? If you are, go ahead and chime in. I mean, we could see you present.
He blinked, so maybe.
Yeah, 2 blinks for yes, I'm here.
I could run across the street and tell him to turn up his volume so he can hear us.
I think that's the problem.
Yeah, it's volume.
Okay. Do we need him to verbally confirm?
Well, he has to be able to hear us.
That would be cool.
We can see.
Is anybody chat? Oh yeah, here we go. Has anybody chatted with him?
Kelsey, can you send him a message?
No.
There we go. Thank you.
I sent it at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Andrea?
Perfect.
Do you remember how to turn the volume on?
There we go.
I've done it before, but I can't figure it out. And for some reason, they didn't give me the ability this time to dial in for some reason. So I can't dial in, which I've always done in the past.
Oh, he's calling her over.
He's trying to dial. He doesn't know if we can see him or hear him.
Yeah, he doesn't. He thinks. I thought he was talking to us, but no, he's still trying to figure out.
Text him.
I've done that every other meeting. I've done
We can't do something on the screen? Like somebody write on a piece of paper and hold it up. Oh, there he goes. He's got his.
All right, thanks.
Fine.
I guess you can see us.
I'm so glad this is on YouTube. This will be so fun for him to watch later on.
He's muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I was having trouble. Sorry.
No worries.
We could see you and hear you. Well, lately we could hear you the last few minutes, but okay. Good. You're there.
You didn't say anything super embarrassing, so you're good. I know your mind's probably reeling back. Uh-oh, did I just cuss on a city meeting? Cool. All right, so Brian, if you just want to say here, we're good to go, and
Here.
step roll call. Cool. All right. Well, so we have a quorum tonight, so we'll proceed through the agenda. I don't have any adjustments to it, and so if we want to go through the minutes from our last session 2 months ago, I don't know if anybody else had time to look through it. I looked through them and didn't see anything that caught my eye needing revisions, but so if nobody had any revision requests, I'll go ahead and move to approve the minutes as written, if I can get a second.
Second.
All right, so that was Sarah, and then all in favor, just if you want to say aye or raise your hand or something too, that'll help.
Yeah. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Cool. Sounds like that is unanimously passed. Did we receive any citizen comments? Elsie or Kristen?
No.
No.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, we'll just fly right through this. And then we have Jason on the line, Cedar Creek Trail update.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. All right, first step, you can hear me. I'll try to share my screen with or through Kelsey here or Mark. And the screen. Is that showing up with Mark or?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, sweet. You can see in the map on the right and webpage on the left?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yay, all right.
Yep.
Great. So really, I just wanted to go. I'll be back in August, too, if you guys have a meeting. Have some other updates related to projects and some tree removals and a storm facility. You might be able to hear my kids in the background a little bit there. Today, I'm just going to go over the Cedar Creek Trail webpage and provide you with a quick update on the project. We just updated this today. We had our monthly coordination meeting, and you can see the date here, July 20th, or July 2020 update. And we're moving forward to city rate. We should have our final bid documents to the Oregon Department of Transportation Procurement Office. And I just came up with they're saying early September. I just did September 11th, 2020, because that's my birthday, and I think that's a good target for us to get to. I just wanted to give it good luck. So that's the date I came with. They're saying early September, Labor Day, but I think that's a good one there. It's a Friday. And then they are programming it in for a 40 to 60 day review period before they will program the project advertise the project for bid. We're definitely shooting for the 40 days there, and I go into that a little bit more, that we've been assigned a November 19th initial bid date, and we're pushing strongly to have our bids open, not just advertised prior to the November 3rd election day. And I have a typo there. Sorry about that. We'll fix that. We just submitted our joint fill removal permit application last month and paid for that today, actually, which is a huge step for the project. If everything goes well, that should be approved in the next 6 to 8 weeks, along with all of our erosion control permits and the final construction permits we need to submit everything to the procurement office. So that's going well. Ultimately, though, we'll start construction in December to maximize efficiency and produce the most favorable bids. And this allows the contractor to schedule their work from start to finish around two of the most regulated and time-restrictive periods that we've talked about before, and one that's the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. We don't want to be disturbing our vegetation when the birds and mammals are migrating and nesting. Usually it's from February to September. And then another typo there. That's why we're presenting this to you, so we will fix those. The in-stream work window, which starts July 15th and ends at September 30th. So that's the period when we can set the main bridge boardwalk over the creek. You got some reverb there. Is that me? All right. Constructing the pedestrian bridge over the creek at the tail end of the project provides the contractor with optimal access to the location. So that's also going to benefit our bid pricing. Update on the acquisition phase. Is everyone hearing that? Hello?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I hear it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm good.
All right. So right-of-way acquisition phase is going well. We've closed out 4 of the 5 right-of-way case files. They've been settled. We're getting our recorded documents back now. We do have one last remaining case file, which we've been talking about at each of our updates. That is with the Glen Eagle Village Condominiums HOA. It sounds like we have a reasonable counteroffer that they're going to present, that their legal rep has blessed, and they're going to be running it through the HOA, I believe, this month here in the next 2 weeks. So if that's accepted, we won't have to go to eminent domain proceedings, no condemnation, and we're on track with the aforementioned schedule, which is great. So I don't foresee any right-of-way issues.
So Jason, just real quick, so you said they have a counteroffer that they're going to the HOA with. Is that something we've already agreed to with the city that they're taking back to them for the counteroffer, or is that they're going through that process and then they bring that to you for?
We've already been discussing kind of the whole process with them for several months now, and it's what it is they're going to accept the appraised amount and counter with what is typically acceptable to ODOT and the feds, and that's to provide some security fencing because we have a new transportation facility along the edge of their property. So they're getting bids for, I believe, for like a vinyl coated steel fence. It's nothing that's out of the ordinary or extraordinary. So I've already talked to the city manager about it, and we're kind of in the same ballpark of pricing. So really it's just waiting for it to come back and have it not be, for a Fort Knox style wall, and then it's acceptable. But from all indications from the right-of-way agents, this is going to go off without a hitch, but I'll knock on wood here. But, we don't really have any concerns on the right-of-way acquisition. It's just a matter of the HOA board meeting and the COVID, and they finally got their teams meetings up. So it sounds like July, the third Monday in July should be the day they bless it, and then we'll get it accepted and then a check cut for them. And we do get reimbursed, I think 89%. So we pay for these case files directly, and then the feds give us back our net 89% back, which is great. Yeah, no problem. Thanks. Any questions, just interject. No worries at all. So design review phase, we're waiting for our final plans to show up this month later. Hopefully, this month or the first week of August is what Jacobs Engineering's quoting. And really, I've kind of just given our internal folks a heads up, and we're just going to try to get this hammered out in 2 weeks and back in their, pocket to process. So nothing left on the board on the city side. I'm kind of left this stuff in from a previous update. We've had, you guys wanted to memorialize or review comments, so we'll do that through construction, just so no stones left unturned, and we know which feeder trails we want to go after when the project's done, so we don't lose track of all the hard work we've done. And then here on the webpage, we've got an overall project description. If you ever meet anybody that wonders what's going on with the project or what's part of the West Fork of the Ice Age Tonkin Trail system, and click on this, and it should give you a map of that. So we're building this portion here, but going up to Meineke. So there's all sorts of useful links in here on the webpage that kind of, I don't know if they're, the joint fill removal application. We got the in-stream work window, Migratory Bird Treaty Act, things like that. So if you're interested in finding out more about the project, check out the webpage. We have a timeline schedule that, this was put together several months ago, and we're still on track. Nothing's changed. I think we have the construction date saying that we're going to start in November here, but really it's likely to start in December just because of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the in-water work window. We don't want to drag that out to a point where the contractor's kind of sitting around and waiting. And then supporting documents down here, we've got our Project 1 exhibit. We've got the previous deliverables for the the preferred alignment here, the prospectus that we're hopefully using to get more federal funds, kind of a description of the property ownership, natural resources, and then the overall fill system. And we'll post the joint fill removal permit when we get that, the 1200C permit and whatnot on here just to maximize transparency with the project. So that was about it. And I had a map over here just to, if we had any questions about the project or where things were going, I can answer those now. And things are going good, by the way. I want to, if I were to grade it, I'd give it a B+ because I'm hard on myself, but it's just because I don't, until that final right-of-way case file is closed out, I don't want to give us an A-, but trending on the upward slope and no turning back.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason. Oh, is that Sarah or somebody? Okay. All right.
If you think of anything, I'll be back in August again if you guys have a meeting, or September if you don't. So I will talk to you guys soon. Hope everybody's
Sounds great.
good.
Thank you for the update, Jason.
Great. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on, Kristen, you had an update for the Parks Master Plan update?
Yes. So I just wanted to give everybody a quick update on the Parks Master Plan. I know some of you were able to join us for the joint session with the Planning Commission. Thank you very much. And if anybody wants to speak to that meeting, absolutely feel free and chime in. But after that meeting and in looking at the draft that MIG has provided, both Erica and I felt like we need a little bit more time to review things. We want to make sure when it goes back to council this time for comments that we have the opportunity to take a look at things and make sure that it's as thorough as possible and try to anticipate some of the questions that might come up. There were questions last time that we went to council, and we just want to make sure that we're as prepared as possible. So we had originally planned on having a work session tomorrow, and we have pulled that item, and we're looking at the first meeting in August. So I'll make sure to let you guys know so that that's something that you can listen in on. And in the meantime, I may be able to shoot you some information and pull it from there and get some of your feedback. One of the things we really wanted to fine tune was the executive summary. If you remember from the last Parks Master Plan, that executive summary was really a helpful tool that kind of gave us a snapshot of which projects we wanted to focus on and work on, and also assigned dollar amounts or approximate dollar amounts to them, which really helped in our yearly planning and forecasting, and even 5-year forecasting. So that's one of the pieces that we're working on. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them, or if anybody has any other thoughts or comments.
Actually, I do have one. The question was, with the, I wasn't sure if there was much information as far as the public access, if that was something that was going to be part of the, the document as well, as far as current and future for bus stops or some kind of other types of how to get to these parks in the future. Like, are we looking at some kind of mass transit or some other ways of accessing these parks from people outside of the Sherwood?
So this plan doesn't include anything about mass transit or access in that way. It does address walkability and the goal to have a park within a certain radius or a certain area within a neighborhood. So it addresses it for Sherwood residents and talks about making sure that everybody has access to parks and trails, but it does not address people coming from outside of town or transportation issues.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I remember part of that discussion too that came up, I think, around the pump track too. And I think part of the idea around the design of the parks is, I mean, as Kristen mentioned, making them feasible for a location to be able to have everything walkable within a certain distance of any resident in Sherwood. But also if we're doing any kind of quote unquote like flagship parks or a pump track or something unique, not making it so extravagant that we're getting a ton of flooded traffic and added maintenance from a lot of external use. So not to say nobody else is welcome in Sherwood Parks by any means, but to be mindful of how we design it to be more focused on the residents and the people who are paying for these parks, I guess. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the tree report then.
So we have 2 items on the tree removal. I just sent those out to you today. I apologize for the late notice. I know we're trying to make it a goal to get those out earlier. Luckily, these ones are pretty straightforward. The first one is a decayed tree with multi-trunks over off of Stellar that needs to be removed for safety reasons. Because of the trail and then also because of the neighboring property owners. And there is an arborist report attached, and it will be removed and then replanted in the fall. And the second set of trees is over at the senior center, and there's 9 diseased birch trees that need to be removed. And once again, they'll be replaced in the fall. There is an arborist report attached, and they'll find a tree that is better suited for that environment and more immune to insects.
I guess I didn't see that close enough on the PDF. Was that what they deemed was the issue with those birches?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I was just saying they specifically talked about removing the diseased birch trees and it said replace with better suited trees immune to insects. So I guess. Okay, yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Nested with insects, bronze, birch, borer. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no problem removing the birch trees. That's for sure. They have a lot of trouble with those trees. I know. So.
Okay. Well, I move to remove the trees as noted from the trees called out from the tree removal report.
Yep. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? It's hard to hear if everybody's. Okay. Unanimous vote to approve.
Sorry, guys, I just froze for a second. I know that Eric moved. Who seconded?
I think it was
Brian.
me. It was me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you also sent out the YMCA report, Kristen.
Yes, there was quite a bit of information in there, so I decided it might be easiest to just forward it. They did open the facility back up. I'm just going to hit on a few highlights in the middle of June. As they mentioned, they are, I think at the time they were seeing about 23% of the people were coming back and utilizing the facility, which was right on par for the national average, and they expect an increase every week, more and more people becoming comfortable. The pool cannot open until phase 2, and obviously we do not know when that will be. The earliest it would be that we would enter phase 2 would be the 10th, but personally I think that that's seeming unlikely, but we'll see what happens. And even if we did enter phase 2 on the 10th of July, the YMCA would need some time to get things up and running again. The other thing that I wanted to mention is you may have noticed or you may have heard in the community that they have suspended the swim team that is meeting there. And I know that that's been, there's been a lot of comments out in the community and on Facebook about that, but they've at least temporarily suspended the swim team, and obviously they can't be there and swim. So I think some of the kids are going down to Newburgh and utilizing that facility because Newburgh is in Yale County and is in phase 2. so they can utilize their pools. Any other questions? Ryan wasn't able to be here tonight, so he said if we have any specific questions, he's happy to get back to us. Oh, one last thing I wanted to highlight is they do have the Essential Needs Hub set up at the YMCA, and every Wednesday they're distributing food boxes to people that may need assistance. So that is going to continue for quite some time, and they're shelf-stable food products that are being distributed. So spread the word. If anybody's in need, there's a phone number to call and sign up, and you're able to participate in that.
He also mentioned volunteers. Are they in need of volunteers, or do you have a feel from him on if that's been well attended? Or?
They are handling all of their volunteers, especially for the Essential Needs Hub. It's not a city function, so the city is not providing volunteers. But I know that they have to unpack bags or unpack boxes and repack boxes and sort everything. So I would not be surprised if they could utilize volunteers. And you're saying up the food, so she's been over there trying to help them out on Wednesdays with that. And I know she's had a hand on her if they're in need of volunteers.
I can speak to that as well.
Oh, great.
Go for it, Sarah.
I've been there for...
Okay, I see your hand. Yes.
Organize kind of some of the volunteer stuff because it kind of falls into my real food wheelhouse. And we could definitely use help. They definitely need a few more strong arms, strong backs for the food unload on Wednesday mornings. And that's from about 7:30 in the morning. We usually wrap up at that around 8:30, getting everything off the trucks. And then you don't actually have to sign up or anything. You just show up at the circular drive between 10:30 and I believe 12 or 12:30, and can take a box for your family or other families. You can take multiple boxes. We've had actually quite a bit more food come in than has actually gone out thus far.
Oh, great.
And if
thank you for clarifying that.
If you know that there are community needs for folks who can't get there on the Wednesday distribution, if they email Don, then he actually is doing secondary distribution by request. And they're even doing a few deliveries and such. But yes, they could definitely use a few more volunteers. It's pretty labor intense right now, but we're usually done by 10 with the initial sorting and getting everything out. So I've been there from about 7:30 a.m. to about 10:30 or 11 usually.
Great. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for doing that.
You bet.
Yeah, I do have a question about that, the report from the Y. I know that we're following the state's guidelines, but I just was wondering with the mask requirement, except for, when you're on a piece of equipment and you're, using, a lot of air and exercising, to a high heart rate and a lot of breathing and whatever. Is there any concern about spreading the coronavirus in the Y when people are on those machines without a mask on? And if so, is there any mechanism to require masks 100% of the time and not just when people are not on machines?
I would need to check with the YMCA. I mean, I know that businesses have the opportunity, obviously, to require masks, but I do think that for the exercise, it becomes a safety or issue. I don't know, I'm not familiar with their cleaning protocol between use. And I assume that I know that they were spreading machines out so that you were not too close to somebody else. They've reconfigured things, but I have not been in there. But I'd be happy to check in with Ryan and see if we can get an answer. And I'm sure that this is something that they've talked about nationally with their fitness facilities and see how they're addressing that. I know they're having some group exercise, but they only have 2 classes, at least as of when this report was, and are trying to spread that out as well.
Yeah.
And I know they have people who are roaming and just cleaning, but as for if somebody's standing there and cleaning right between, I'm not sure how they're managing that.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments on the Y update?
I do. What are the hours? What are the current hours for the YMCA?
They were, let's see. I thought they had it in this email. My printer printed half of the stuff. My ink is running out, so I'm trying to read it he put it in the email. I know they were open limited hours, and I don't know that he included that.
Yeah, I didn't see that in the document.
Yeah,
I was just curious. Yeah.
Well, on the website it says Monday through Friday 7 to 7, Saturday 9 to 2 p.m., Sunday closed.
Okay.
But that's as of this moment, and that's the Sherwood Regional Family YMCA. So that's definitely ours. Yep.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Russell.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So, Chris, did you also want to update us on the board vacancy? I know we talked a little bit about trying to fill the 3 vacancies we currently have.
Yes, we have 3 vacancies, and we've also, with the new terms that went into effect earlier this year, or early this fiscal year, I can't remember what month that was. Sarah's term is actually expiring as well, and she is up for renewal. Conveniently, the 3 people who left, their terms were also expiring in June, so that part has worked out well. So we did advertise the last couple of weeks. All of any application or interest goes to Sylvia, our city recorder, and I know that was out today and Thursday, but I have not heard of anyone who has applied for any of the positions. So we're looking at going back out and really trying to do a social media push and draw up more interest. But if any of you know people who might be interested, please try to spread the word as well. It'd be great to get those seats filled as soon as we can.
Okay.
And one is a full term. Wait, what was it, Kelsey? One's a partial term and the rest are full terms. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's 2 years and the rest one is 2-year term and the rest are 3-year terms.
Yeah. I know that was true for the 3 that we currently have, and I don't know what category Sarah fell into for the next term.
So
So Sarah,
latest,
we can chat offline.
sorry, the latest vacancy was Mike Jackson left.
Yes.
Is there?
That's correct.
Did he? Was there any reason given, or was he okay? Is everything okay with Mike? Or
He did not provide a reason. He just said he was going to need to step down.
okay, that's too bad.
But he was cheerful and, very much said he enjoyed his time and said good things about the board and everything. But that's all he shared.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So spread the word.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's go on to Russell, council updates.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see. Hopefully, I'm sure everybody had a real quiet 4th of July. It's not like America went out and bought like 3 times the number of fireworks they normally buy. And it seems like they all went off near my house. I know everybody feels that way. Probably 5 citizens have stopped me since Saturday night. Like, what's the city going to do about that? I don't know. Cancel the 4th? I don't know. I mean, move Washington further away? What are we going to do about that? I mean, I have no idea, except people needed an outlet. Hopefully they're over it now for another year, and next year won't be quite so. Somebody asked me today, one of the planning commissioners said, does the city of Sherwood have any plan to police the use of illegal fireworks? I'm like, yeah, as soon as we buy him a helicopter, we could probably do that. But, you know, it's one of those, the PD it's overwhelming on that day, on that night. And they're always going to respond to incidents where there could be, harm to people or harm to property, like an actual, fire. I know that the TVFNR would love it if we didn't do all of those explosive things, but I don't know what to say. I don't have an answer for that. The city council at the moment has no plans to draft an ordinance doing anything with fireworks on the 4th of July. So hopefully it wasn't too bad wherever you were. I empathize with everybody who has pets and dogs and horses and kids and rattlesnakes and whoever was affected by the noise, because it was a lot of noise. I totally get it. I just hope people have it out of their system for a while. Let's see what else. Also of interest during the week, and this caused me to send an email off to the city manager, was that story about police officers from different organizations having coffee in Corvallis. And the shop person in Corvallis, because, it's a state mandated rule, right, that if you're inside of a business, a public business like a coffee shop, you have to wear masks. And so this person at the counter had already turned away other people because they didn't have a mask. And so he attempted to, apparently this officer, comes in a lot to this Corvallis coffee shop, and he attempted to say, hey, where's your mask? And that went kind of crazy. And he said some things that he probably regrets. I think he might still be on administrative leave, but 3 more officers came in and they all had coffee in the shop with no masks on. And so the shop person called the shop owner. What should I do? I don't know. Should we make it public? I don't know. So they finally decided no one is above the law. And so they decided to contact, I don't know who they contacted, but it was in the news. And I thought it was interesting that a few days ago she had coffee at her place on the deck. Did you see that, Eric? And it had like the 3 officers with their masks on, and they were sitting so tall and straight, and they looked so shiny. And she was having coffee with the 3 that apparently are not on leave, and they had a nice chat, she said. And the superintendent of the Oregon State Police and I don't know, whoever, Lieutenant Governor, whoever weighed in and said, no, officers are not above the law, and in fact, they should be the example. So I just fired off. I mean, I knew this was the case, but I fired off an email to the city manager, and I said, has there been a specific policy or a letter that's gone out to our wonderful police officers about that? Yes, Jeff had, Chief Growth reminded them, the officers, that, on duty, even off duty, in public, and just like everybody else, you are going to wear the mask. And we do it because it's the right thing to do. We care about our citizens, and we are setting the example. So that I thought was very interesting as we see these, stories pop up, and I think police departments that do a great job need a break whenever they can get a break. And so I thought I would pass that along, that the chief assured the council that the officers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And as far as I've seen, that's exactly correct. So kudos to the SPD for that. Let's see, council business. We are once again tackling part of the sign code because, we just haven't had enough fun with the sign code. I was reminiscing with Gene Simpson about that earlier today. about how many times we have tackled the sign code. And last time, I think I was on Planning Commission when this happened, and we didn't quite nail down the exact verbiage regulating the use of teardrop leaf signs, those flag signs that are kind of popping up everywhere. Well, the council and the Planning Commission has drafted some code, and I think what we're going to do, at least I don't know what the council is going to do as a whole. We'll decide that tomorrow night. My intention is I would like to see the council, okay, let's approve whatever we want the ordinance to be, but maybe let's push it down the road a bit. Like maybe it doesn't take effect until January 1, until, we're past this and small businesses, aren't being, affected by this code right in the middle of the pandemic. So that's a discussion that we're going to have tomorrow night. Also in the code is some cleanup about signs within industrial zoning areas, or I'm sorry, in institutional zoned areas, because the high school needed a sign, and because of the size of the building, the size of the sign they needed exceeded the current code. They had to get a special use permit, and it was like a big deal. And we thought, we need to fix that right away. So that's one of the things we're going to fix is, because it's a big sign. Biggest physical high school in the state needs a big sign. And so we'll get that taken care of too. We also are in the midst of, tomorrow night we'll approve an intergovernmental agreement, an IGA with Washington County. They received quite a bit of that federal CARES funding. And one of the things the city did early on at the suggestion of Joe Gall, our city manager, is to provide small businesses with emergency loans. And the city gave out $200,000 from the general fund to local businesses. I don't remember how many it was, but it was quite a few. They desperately, greatly needed those funds. I hope it helped. And so we are proposing to Washington County, and I think we're tying up this process, that we will get reimbursed for that amount out of that federal CARES funding, out of the millions of dollars that Washington County received from the federal government. We'll get a share of that for that program that we participated in a few months ago. So that'll be nice. And then zoning, we're just revisiting a part of a zoning plan. One, I think the ordinance is to allow for like a hotel organization, or not resort, but sort of, some like a hotel, not necessarily a motel, but a hotel, that kind of business inside of our light industrial zones, just sort of in general. Just so that we don't, there are some light industrial zones along, for example, 99 and or other corridors where it kind of makes sense to allow. Yeah. So, and it's always going to be on a case-by-case basis. The one that we have now, we welcome, of course. I know people have different opinions about the location, but ODOT was okay with it. The county was okay with it. TFNR was okay with it. So it was sort of hard, for the Planning Commission at the time. It met all the requirements, checked all the boxes. So we certainly welcome them as a business, into the city. So it's kind of business as usual. The city is, slowly getting back into things. Kelsey, are you back? Are you guys back at all? You're part-time. You're in a couple of days, right?
We started summer camps last week.
Yeah.
And we started out small last week. And then today was our first big day. We had three morning camps and 2 afternoon camps. So we're there pretty much full time now, but we are not open to the public. So
Right. I knew that it's as we slowly, get, roll back into things, the city manager, Joe Gall, is relying on, department managers and, employees to figure kind of sort of figure that out. And they're following an organized plan. And so the city is has always been working, but now we'll see more and more people, on occasion at City Hall. So that's it. Anybody have any questions at all about what's going on in the city?
I just wanted to comment that I was with you during when we were both planning commissioners for the signage.
Right.
And I remember we spent a lot of time going back and forth on what would be more appropriate for both temporary and permanent. So I was kind of curious on what's been going on with all that, because we drive by and you kind of glance at a few signs and it's in the back of your mind, is that legal or is that something that they just put up, especially those big flags, those banner flags that we see a lot now. I don't know if anything has changed on those.
Well, that's sort of specifically one of the changes in the code coming before us tomorrow night. Maybe I'm kind of neutral on that. I mean, they definitely bother some, council members, but I think the concept was the council, the city wanted to make sure that we have a plan for those and that they're regulated to some extent. I think the big issue right now is maybe not enforcing the new ordinance right now. Waiting until we're further down the road and let's kind of see what happens to our business environment within the city before we get too restrictive on the sign code. But we want to make sure that it's appropriate. It's cleaned up a lot of the neighboring cities. What we don't necessarily want are flag signs all the way down the road. They don't really impact me personally, but we've had some citizens comment. So
all right, thank you.
That's it. Anybody else?
Yeah, I do have a question. And I realize I have a question about the playgrounds, and I know that we are bound by the state and what phase we're in this county, and I know we're just in phase 1, and the state says you can't have playgrounds open until you're in phase 2. I get that, but is there any way, or does the council support maybe pushing back on that a little bit and saying, look, playgrounds are outdoors. We want the kids to be outdoors. This is the latest. The latest information we have about this disease is that it's airborne. It transmits indoors. It doesn't transmit nearly as well outdoors. Having kids on our playgrounds seems to be relatively safe. So is there a way to say to the state or ask the state, can we open up the playgrounds so that to encourage more families to have more things to do outside? Because obviously there seems to be a need for that, because that police tape keeps getting pulled down from a lot of the playgrounds. So obviously people want a place to play with their kids outside. It's been a long time since they've been closed. And like I said, I know this is serious and I'm not a denialist in any way, but from what I've read, being outside is safe. And it seems to me that being on a playground would be a safe place for kids to be. So is there any way that we can ask the state just to reconsider that and open up those playgrounds?
I think we can always ask the state anything. And I know that Mayor Mays has on a regular basis, talked to other mayors in the Washington County area and voiced his opinion on, representing us as a city within the area about different kinds of things, like being grouped with the other 2 counties and, those kinds of issues. And I don't know if specifically he's talked about playgrounds. I know that Joe Gall, the city manager, he's absolutely going to do whatever the law is. And so I don't anticipate any change in that status until we reach whatever that goal is and it's declared okay by the powers that be. You are always welcome. You can always send an email to City Council and make sure the mayor and the city manager is in it. We read all that email that we get. We talk about it. It comes up at work sessions, comes up at council meetings. But it would be nice. And the thing that interesting I read online the other day is that science is not necessarily like, here's your answer. Science is like, it's a process. And we don't know that much about this disease. We think we do, and then it changes, or it mutates, or then we discover this thing, and then we discover that thing. And so I think I just give you Pat Allen's personal phone number. I'm just kidding. I would never do that, Pat. I'm just kidding. I have to go with whatever they say, because I'm not an expert in that area, and all I can do is, is be subject to the powers that be and hope that, people don't go too stir crazy in the meantime. So go ahead, Kristen.
One of the things, if I can chime in real quick, one of the things that I'll just mention is that would have to be across the board. We would not be able to get special permission per se, or nor would I want us to have special permission for Sherwood, because then there'd be a huge influx of people coming from everywhere else in the Portland metropolitan area
use our
to utilize the playgrounds. And right now, one of the issues is if it's not approved within that phase, our insurance does not cover us. CIS does not provide coverage for any sort of activity that's going on if it's not an approved activity within that phase. So that's something that we have to be very mindful of as well. But it would really have to be a group effort and meaning multiple cities.
Yeah.
And I think that the easiest path or the path of least resistance is getting to phase 2.
Yeah.
So if and when Washington County gets to phase 2, I think that's going to be the quicker answer, or going to communities that are in phase 2 and do have their playgrounds open. But whether that means Washington County separating from Clackamas and Multnomah, or doing something different, I don't know. I mean, obviously our numbers aren't great right now either. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it works, but I just wanted to mention those two issues.
Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for you, Brian, but I don't have a better answer.
No, I didn't expect. I just wanted to sort of throw that out there to see, because I know that we're constrained by the state, but we can always ask the question.
Yeah, well, I know the minute that we're approved, I know that water feature is going to get the green light to get turned on. Yeah, definitely. All right. Thanks, everybody. Unless you have another question. Anybody?
Actually, Russell, I'm sorry. I have to chime in. Did you just say the water feature is going to get the green light?
No, I just said when and if we get into phase 2, I know that will be a big deal to get our water feature greenlit.
And just to set reasonable expectations, that may not happen in phase 2.
Okay.
There's more restrictions with water features, and we have to have, and it's a very small water feature, so that's something that we're looking at, is we need to have 35 square feet per person, and it has to be monitored. So it could be a challenge to get it open. And we also have to receive approval from the county. So, sorry, don't mean to throw rain on the parade. Just want to manage expectations.
Yes. And I'm not the boss of the water features at all. So, absolutely. Final say on that. Whatever you guys decide, that's what needs to be done. So, all right. I'm going to go mute unless there's anything else.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Russell.
Welcome. Yeah.
Derek, I have a few things under other.
Yeah, go ahead and please, jump right in.
Okay, so one thing that I wanted to mention is, as most of you or all of you are aware, for the last 17 years or so, we've had an agreement with the school district, an IGA with the school district, where Lance, our recreation coordinator, has coordinated field and gym usage for the school district. So people pay a fee and work through Lance, and Lance does all of the coordination. Well, the district has decided that is something that they want to take back over. So they sent a letter out just last week to the leagues, letting them know that from here on out, they will be handling their own scheduling, which means Lance will not be doing that anymore. So this will be for all of the school district fields and the school district gyms. Lance will continue to schedule and rent out by the hour Snyder Park. So that will include the Snyder baseball field and the soccer/lacrosse field at Snyder. But that's a big change in how we've done things in the past. And if you're involved in any of the youth sport organizations, I'm sure that you will be hearing about it. So I wanted to give everybody a heads up on that.
Is that going to be easily identifiable if we have people looking to rent? Like would they have to go on different websites or different links to contact or make reservations, or is that something that's easily done that they will all know about ahead of time?
So what the district has told us is they're using a new program called Facilitron, and people will be able to set up an account, go online and space. So I'm not sure how else it will work beyond that. I also know that their goal is to stay consistent with what our fees have been this first year, and then they're going to reevaluate it. For Snyder Park, right now people just call Lance and it literally writes it down on a calendar or puts it in Outlook, and we're going to look at trying to put that on our same system as we use for the Center for the Arts and for picnic shelters. So we're hoping to get that all on Max Galaxy. So both should have the ability to do it electronically or online.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is I've been contacted by the pickleball people who play up at Snyder Park on a couple days a week, and they said that they've had an increased demand in people wanting to participate in pickleball, and they would like hours reserved, some type of evening hours reserved so that they can play pickleball. Right now they have a couple hours a week, twice a morning, and they would love to get some evening hours. So I told her that I would bring it to you guys and see if you had any thoughts or recommendation. There's really two ways we can go about this. The courts are currently, besides those times that we do try to reserve for them in the morning, they're first come, first serve. So there's no reason that they can't show up and play pickleball if it's not being utilized for tennis. Or we could also look at trying to find an evening or two a week and reserve an hour, hour and a half, and try to reserve it for pickleball. But I just wanted to see what this group thought and if you had a preference.
Is there anything known as far as current usage levels?
So she told me that they have as many as a club, and they have 70 people. Now, that does not mean, and hopefully they're not having 70 people show up at one time, because obviously that would exceed the number of people we're supposed to have in a gathering right now. But they just said that I think it's gone from 40 to 70 or something like that.
How about regular tennis players in the evening?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have no idea. So we have not received we haven't received any calls that people aren't able to get on to play tennis. And I don't know if that's that people aren't notifying us or if they're just showing up and seeing that they're in use and leaving, but it hasn't been a documented concern. And we don't reserve the courts for any other activity. We were just trying to distinguish between the two different activities of tennis and pickleball. So we don't have a way to really gauge how often it's being used unless someone was to sit up there.
I know, I mean, I've gone kind of running a loop up there every once in a while and stuff. And I know that's a total random sampling, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody waiting to use it. Occasionally I'll see both courts being used, but typically maybe it's just one or even it's empty. So I like the idea of knowing that when pickleballers are jumping in, it's getting maximized usage. I mean, they're using all four corners, dividing those in half. And the challenge of trying to share the space, as Mike had discussed a while back, was, I mean, if they're playing side to side, if a ball goes past a person, it's bouncing into the next court pretty quickly, versus side by side tennis, the ball's going parallel to each other and you're not really interfering too much. So I like the idea of giving an opportunity to continue maximizing that usage. I mean, and maybe even just if it could be verbalized as it's kind of on an interim basis, it's not a permanent solution, right. But at the very least, it kind of gives an opportunity where, okay, if it is a problem for some tennis players, maybe they can raise a concern at that point. But in my mind, especially in this season where not a ton of people are getting out and using a lot of the facilities, at the very least, it's getting the usage that we would have designed it for to some degree. So,
Kristen, are they only using the Snyder tennis courts?
Yep, and I believe I'm not 100% positive, but I'm fairly confident that they're not able to use the Y right now. At one time, they were having indoor times at the YMCA on the opposite days of when they were using Snyder, and school courts have been closed. And I'm not sure that the school would reserve time for them anyways. And I don't believe that any of the school tennis courts have pickleball lines on them.
Did they have specific time as far as evening time that they were requesting we consider?
They did. I was trying to pull up the email here really quick. I know that they said they'll take whatever that they can get. So they were saying, they would love to start at 5 o'clock, and they would love, in a perfect world, they'd love 2 nights, Monday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. So I guess not Tuesdays.
And did they have a suggestion for how long they want that exclusive use?
I think that they would, for duration of time, like number of hours?
Yeah.
I believe right now it's a 2-hour block. Elsie, does that sound right? We made the signs. I'm trying to remember. I think it's 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't remember it all.
So they just said starting at 5, but I wouldn't do it beyond that. But that seems like that's plenty of, it takes them a few minutes to get set up and to do all of that. So I wouldn't go shorter than an hour and a half, but I don't think that we need to go beyond 2 hours.
Yeah, I was just more thinking of trying to envision when the use might be happening in the evening hours for folks now as is.
Right. And really, honestly, I don't know that 5 to 7 would be a prime time. I think that most people, that might be more of a dinner time, and people might be coming out to play tennis later in the evening.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if there was an end.
Yeah.
Time. Basically, can you clear the courts by this time for other users?
Right. Yeah. No, I think we would want to put that in there for sure.
Well, I think my thought would be 5 to 7, maybe start with 1 day a week and see if we had other feedback from other users that objected to that or felt like it was crunching their time. See how that went, and then maybe add a second night. Because I think, similar to what Eric said, I think you want to maximize utilization of the courts.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? Do people feel like that would be a good approach?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I like Terry's suggestion. It's a little more conservative in testing the waters, I think, too, versus giving them 2 right out of the gate and then potentially causing an issue with tennis players. So I think that's good, and then it also gives them an opportunity to gauge how their community responds to an evening session. So.
Right. Yep. Okay, that sounds great.
And maybe keep it midweek to start with. Avoid the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, we'll give that a try. And then I also like the idea of, and we'll create a separate sign. The other one that we have is a little bit more permanent, but we'll just make sure that they understand this kind of on a temporary basis. I mean, obviously, once we get out of summertime and it's getting dark earlier, we're limiting the hours and usage for other players as well. So we might need to reevaluate, but that we can give this a try on a trial basis.
A summer session.
Yes.
A summer session. Yes, I like that.
Great.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Excellent. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to bring up tonight?
Not me.
Okay. Well, sounds like we are covered for the evening. So thank you all so much for being able to participate this evening and get us to a quorum and make some decisions. And these are been great updates today, I think, too. So it's been, I think, the most involved meeting we've had in the last few. So it's kind of nice to at least have some meat to chew on. So with that said, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we'll plan on the first Monday of August to jump into our next one.
Great. I look
Great.
forward to
Thank
it.
you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Guys.
Be
Bye-bye.
well.